welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking all about the latest dev update from Sea of Thieves, what that means for Season 18, as well as Golden Glory is going on right now. We have got a ton to get into, so let's get into it. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast to show their support for this content. And as a result, I like to call them out on the podcast to let them know how much I appreciate their support. It really does help take care of the payments for Podbeam, for Adobe Premium, as far as there's cloud suites in case I need to update my XLR cable. That's going to be taken care of by the patrons. They are the ones that are purchasing the equipment to keep up with the microphone or the Go XLR. God forbid anything happened to the Go XLR, because it's already been giving me a couple issues with the software and they're already a little defunct. And I'm like looking at the fact that a new mixing board is not something I really want to have to worry about in the near future. So, just hope that Windows doesn't murder my Go XLR in the next few years, because that would be it'd be really sad. It'd be very, very sad. But what's not sad is that the patrons are supporting this content. They're helping me take care of the podcasting costs, as well as ensuring that it's just helping. It's just genuinely helping. The time investment that I like to do with these podcasts is important to me, that I'm giving you guys good content. Last week's episode was not working out as much as I tried to grind away at it. I'm hoping this week, I've been listening to the episode, so hopefully this week's episode sounds normal. But I did appreciate everyone kind of letting me know that it sounded weird, because it was really frustrating to me to have to deal with it as well too. So I was not happy with last week's episode, and I apologize to patrons that were there, because I feel like it ruined their voice as well too. So going forward, I'm going to see if we can go ahead and equalize the levels before we start recording for the next Gold Hoarder episode, so that I can try and make sure that I have to do less post-processing to the episode. And that way it sounds natural and more normal for you when you actually get to listen to it, because that's always frustrating to have to try and feel weird about it, like what's going on with that. So again, I'm sorry that you guys had to deal with that. I appreciate the feedback. It was something I already knew going into it based on how much time I had left to work on that. And if you guys want to rake me through the coals on that one, totally fair. Totally, absolutely fair. Oh, hi, Fern. Motion sensor says hi as well too. I don't know if you guys can hear her or not, but as always with all the Patreon call outs, I like to make sure that I let you know that I appreciate it. And as such, I want to let them know by name. So thank you to A Chick, L Cute, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Captain Longsharts, Chateau Neuf, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Crazy Frog, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Carl Embo of Embo Family Gaming, Kylia the Aficionado, Elden Vramir, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Rabid Raccoon, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Ribloid, Rustbelt Kid, Sea Leg Sam, Shoe Daddy 13, Skamelt 666, Tales of the Sea, The Demon Jester, Tommy D, TN Professor, Wailing Witch, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Captain Duckweed, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much for your support, for the time and effort that you guys take into listening to this episodes. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your week. This episode is definitely going to be spicy, as we're about to get into it with, unfortunately, some not so awesome news. But pirates, let's get into it. First on today's docket, let's talk about the fact that Ghoul and Glory weekend is going on. If you guys had a chance, hopefully you all had some time this weekend. Hopefully you had a fun weekend, as it is kind of celebrating Halloween around this time, as well as the 2 days afterwards. But the beginning of November is, for all intents and purposes, the warm up to Christmas, where we must free Mariah Carey as soon as possible to ensure that Christmas can start the celebration as early as possible, right? I know I'm looking forward to it. No, Ghoul and Glory weekend is going on. That is going to be ending very shortly. I think at the time of recording, it's got about 9 hours left, which means that you don't really have a whole lot of time. And if you're already listening to this when it comes out, chances are it's probably done. But what isn't done is the fact that Rare is still looking to sell you stuff at a sale. The Halloween sale, which started on the 28th, is going until the November 3rd or 4th, depending on the time zone that you're in. It's 10 a.m. UTC, which is typically the 4th it's typically the 4th for Pacific Coast time, but it just means that the sale will be ending at 2 a.m. in the morning if you're on the West Coast of the United States, and 5 a.m. for the East Coast. But in that set with the sale, you get the Soul Flame set. There's the Crimson Crypt set is on sale as well. There's emote bundles, as well as the Gladiator Graveyard set and the Blighted Ship set, which was actually a reward. But they're selling some stuff. So just a reminder there, if you wanted to save some ancient coin and not have to worry too much about having to buy everything at the normal price, just again, be careful, because there is the bundle thing. And if you've purchased anything out of that bundle and you're not looking to just go and complete the set, just don't click on the bundle button. Go buy the individual pieces as long as they are less than what the bundle would normally cost. Outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot that we know about going into the next season. And a lot of that is for good reason. So next on the docket, let's talk about season 18 being delayed. Now, this is not news per se, in the sense that it's new is a very old thing. So beyond me kind of talking about the Pirate Emporium stuff, we did get a developer update that came in. This is not the kind of developer update that we realistically want to see. We generally like to have the dev updates kind of explain like where they're tackling things that are going to be improved in the game, or if we are going to see what's coming up with the next season. Well, this one came in on Halloween. It was a Friday in the afternoon, and it was a very interesting one to really kind of see them throw out. But it feels like this was one of those ones where they kind of knew they needed to get something said, because this coming week is generally when we start to roll out what is going to kick off the next season. And they can't really do that if they're looking to delay season 18, which is what we found out in this dev update video. So they haven't necessarily said when season 18 is going to kick off in December. They did say that it was going to be part of their December update, which historically has been around the third Thursday of the month, which very interesting considering that's when they do that. But I think this is kind of one of those points where I have to say that hearing that they are delaying season 18, while I'm glad that they are taking the time to address the issues that came up as a result of feedback from the insiders and that it's not quite hitting the quality bar, drew comments about how they understand that this is a meme. And when you are announcing in season 16 that they're going to be going through a new way of delivering content in the seasons, and that the seasons are going to be broken up into 3 sections, Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, which, bear in mind, I actually really think they've done a good job with this, looking at what they're doing with the seasonal acts and kind of tying rewards and cosmetics to that to have you accomplish stuff, is a good carrot on the stick for you to be able to stick with the content that's coming in within each portion of the season, and kind of ensures that there's something going on throughout an entire season. All of that is fantastic. as long as you keep on schedule and the content that you're delivering is something that is compelling and interesting to the audience. Otherwise, doesn't matter if you keep on schedule. If the content's boring, people don't want to play it. If the content's great, but you can't keep on schedule, then people are going to get frustrated that the content just never seems to arrive. So it's two sides of an edge of a blade that you have to really kind of balance on. And it's dangerous to be wavering on one side or the other too long. So it's one of these situations where I have to say, I'm disappointed that right after they had announced that they were changing the way that they are going to be delivering content through a season, and that this was going to be a way for them to better address the cadency of content, not only in the sense that they are going to deliver content that has been better tested, and that they are going to be delivering content throughout an entire season, which is going to alleviate some of the strain that is on the teams to get everything done by the beginning of a season. It's disappointing as a consumer to once again hear over the many years that they are going to have to delay a season. And I wanted to kind of just reaffirm that Rare is not a company at its core that can manage monthly content well. They've done it in the past, and it's something that they can do for a while, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's them waiting on third party studios to bring them content. I don't know if it's delays in the system. You can't use Everwild as an excuse that the dev team has split their attention between two different projects anymore. So that really isn't like everyone at Rare should be working on Sea of Thieves. And if you are not testing stuff enough, or you're not getting stuff into insiders to test early enough to then be able to address the feedback, then that really speaks to what your flow of content is. Like, if you guys aren't prepping stuff and keeping to schedules and building allowance into the dev cycle for this feedback, then there's a time management issue. And I get it. People get sick, people go on vacation, things happen, builds get lost, builds get corrupted, feedback is not what you anticipated, like a myriad of reasons. But looking at this from a consumer perspective, it's the consumers of the game and what they perceive that is going to be the reality of the situation. Everything else is a very much, it matters, but it doesn't matter to people who are coming to play the game and expect to have seasonal content. If you're telling people that the content is going to be 3 months before a new season, that is what they expect. Now, you can excuse that from time to time, and in which case people are like, oh, it sucks, but it is what it is. But in this case, this is something that has been tried many a time. And just to give you an example, let's talk about what happened in 2019. 2019 was shortly after, it was the first year after Rare had really kind of stepped up and said, okay, we did our first 3 major releases with the Hungering Deep, Cursed Sails, and the Devil's Roar. And they even topped it off with by far one of the best releases that they had ever done with Shrouded Spoils. Fantastic update. Most balanced the game had ever been in, right? They took quite a hiatus and came out with the anniversary update, which introduced all of the Tall Tales. They also decided that was going to be the point that they really committed to trying to do mercenary voyages. Mercenary voyages were intended to be these kind of monthly set of events. Now, they had actually had Bilge Rat adventures back in July of 2018, and those were also supposed to be week to 2 week long content dumps, little things that they wanted to throw in there. And they quickly realized that 1 week to 2 weeks was not enough time. So they decided to go with monthly updates for the build rat updates. Now, they couldn't quite keep that in the production cycle. They had 3 teams and all 3 were working on different things at the same time. And many of them had been working on Tall Tales and had hired on many people to come in to help out with that. So Mercenary Voyages was intended to be the next attack at doing monthly content. And the first Mercenary Voyages were available from February to March of 2019. And they said, okay, we're going to kick off with Mercenary Voyages. These are going to be voyages that you can pick up from Duke. You can go out and complete these, and they're going to be available for 1 month. And everyone was like, cool, that's awesome. Have something to do. Let's go do it. Then you had the second set, which was available from March 6th through to March 20th. Now, that a little bit shorter of, a month, but looking at what they were doing, they were trying to give us the kind of, something to do during that time. Also, with March 20th, that was kind of the anniversary of the game. And they said, okay, well, we're going to have a mercenary voyage, but we've got something special for you, something for everyone that wants to celebrate the first year of Sea of Thieves. And I think that they did a really good job with it. I think that, when they released the anniversary event that was technically released on April 30th with the Tall Tales, but they kind of celebrated on March 20th, which is the release date of the game, right? They said, okay, well, that one's done. And the third one came in and said, all right, well, between the anniversary and the launch of anniversary event, which is going to be from March 20th to April 30th, and then anniversary update with all the Tall Tales and stuff is going to be released, you will have the third set of mercenary voyages. So it's their third monthly content update that they're doing, that they're trying to keep to this schedule, right? After anniversary was released, they came out with their next set of mercenary voyages because they took a pretty hefty break in between that time. Everyone was pretty content with anniversary update to begin with, so no one was really complaining for a lack of content until it got around like June, when we were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen with Sea of Thieves. So the next set of mercenary voyages came out on July of 2019, and they went till August of 2019. Then we started to get some of the real aggressive monthly updates, because right as the last July to August one ended, in the middle of August, they came out with the 5th set of mercenary voyages. And this was the Dark Relics one. This is the one where they were like, hey, we're going to start really getting aggressive about the story and world development within Sea of Thieves. And that went from August 14th till September 11th. And September 11th is a very important day in America's history, but September 11th was the update that we got for Sea of Thieves that first introduced the idea of smugglers in the game. It's ironic that I'm bringing this all up because of what's been going on in Sea Thieves. And I promise I still promised I was going to be spoiling Lottie's request, which I plan to get to, but I need to tell this story. So September 11th, 2019 was the beginning of the Smugglers Fortune update. It was their announcement of when it was going to be coming, what was going to happen. And it was the start of the Pirate Emporium. And if you don't know too much about that, it actually introduced the black market through Duke as well, introduced pets and doubloons. And this is something that to this day, I think is one of those things that everyone that came to the game saw the Pirate Emporium was so happy with the amount of content that they had received from March 20th, 2018 to May when they first came out with the Hungering Deep, and then all the way around to the anniversary update with the Tall Tales, that by the time September 11th, 2019 rolled around and we got the Pirate Emporium, everyone was ready to throw cash at Rare and tell them, good job. You guys were killing it. And that was when I think the beast was created, because that was the point where I think Microsoft and Xbox had said, okay, cool. Y'all are self-sufficient now. You guys have been making this game since 2015. I think it was earliest 2015. I'm blanking on the hours. They've been making the game for about 5 years, 4 to 5 years prior to the release in 2018. So that probably would have pushed it back to, what is that? 2014, 2013, around that time frame, based on what we've been told. So you look at 2019, you look at September, and we are now in the midst of our 6th mercenary voyage throughout the year, with a pretty hefty break of their monthly cadence between April and July. 3-month period where we weren't getting the monthly mercenary stuff. Now, granted, again, we had anniversary updates, and the mercenary stuff that we were getting were just kind of one voyage that you could repeat as much as you wanted to buy the voyages and then go out and do them, right? Nothing too special. But with the introduction of Smuggler's Fortune back in 2019, this is going to be the spoiler stuff that I'm getting into. We had one of the most interesting and underutilized lore elements to the game brought in the form of Duke and the Black Market. Selling recolored cosmetics. This is when it started. Selling recolored cosmetics that were previously time limited. In the case of the Bone Crusher set, for doubloons. And doubloons is when we actually got that second type of currency. And then also the third type of currency. We were just gold hoarders selling our wares to gold hoarders and Order of Souls and Merchant Alliance. But Duke brought in doubloons. And Duke also helped bring in the Pirate Emporium and Ancient Coin and the Ancient Skeletons that showed up in the game that you could then kill to get Ancient Coin. Now, it's very interesting to kind of think about why it's important that the Smuggler's Fortune update was one that came when it did, because we'd had Duke for a while. And as we all know, Duke is part of the Dark Brethren court now. The Dark Brethren are looking to make a strong return. We've seen them at the Reaper Fortresses. They are attacking Flameheart at his core base, at the place where he values all of his gold and treasures. So it's very interesting that back in 2019, Duke was the one that introduced smugglers to the world of Sea of Thieves and brought their treasure to sell to us through his black market. And anything that was too precious went to the Emporium, and they were able to set up the Emporium shop above the Order of Souls. And this was all Duke. Now, bear in mind, Duke, the Dark Lord, always kind of a bit of a dark person in my mind. Good intentions, maybe, but a dark person in my mind, regardless. So one of the interesting things that I noticed when going back to do a little research, not because of the smuggler aspect of that was an interesting consequence. I was actually going back to Sea of Thieves' library of videos on YouTube to take a look and see, like, when did Rare fail with the monthly content? And it started with 2019. It started with the mercenary voyages. They got very aggressive about trying to be able to do monthly content. And they actually had to take a break because of Anniversary Update in 2019 between April 30th, 2019 and July 17th of 2019. That was the break between the third set and the fourth set of Mercenary Voyages. Now, going into September 11th of 2019, when they kicked off the Rag and Bone crates, and that went until October 16th. And that, for all intents purposes, was the last mercenary voyage that they released, where you were able to go do stuff. Now, you were able to go do kind of ashen treasures and stuff. You were able to go looking for other ways to get, like, ashen keys and ashen chests. Those voyages were still available between November and December, but effectively at that point, the Rag and Bone crates, that was when they decided that they were going to do their first Halloween event, something that they've generally ignored the last couple of years. and haven't really done anything special. So they introduced it in 2019, right after the Rag and Bone crates. Now, for those of you that may not remember too much about the Rag and Bone crates, you find them every once in a while and you wonder, what the heck is this? It is such a leftover item from the mercenary voyages from 2019, 60 years ago. These items have been lingering in forts and in different areas in ways that you can find them by digging them up from a random voyage, and you can deliver them. And the reason they're in the game is because there are commendations from 6 years ago that are still tied to these items from one set of voyages during 1 month period of the game that is now locked into the loot pool of items that you have to get to complete certain commendations from 6 years ago. Now, while I champion the ability to go and actually do old content, I love the fact that that's available. It's the main way that people can get caught up on lore with the world as far as like the tall tales and stuff like that. I can't believe that Rare's aggressive attempt to tackle monthly content ended effectively with the Rag and Bone Crates mercenary voyage, because that is when Duke not only opened up the Emporium, which I think a lot of us all kind of look at the Emporium and think that's where the cool stuff goes, not to the game. You have to buy it with real money, which that's the main way that they make their money. So it's understandable. The hustle's there. I understand it. I buy into it from time to time, but generally I hold off if I don't feel like the game is doing what it should be doing, which is providing healthy content. So you've also got the doubloons and the black market and the tie between Duke, the Dark Lord, and smugglers, which now let's fast forward to 2025. Season 17 deals with the smugglers coming into Sea of Thieves. They are now schlocking their wares and asking pirates to bring lost treasure back to them, smuggled goods back to them. And this is where Lottie's request gets spoiled, because if you haven't done this, you do have to go out and do this. So this is your spoiler warning. So I'm going to let you know right now, if you haven't stopped listening to this episode in the next 10 seconds, you're going to get spoiled on what Lottie's request is. Now, bear in mind, this has been available for a few weeks, so everyone should have an opportunity to go do this. It is something you can do in, I believe, in Safer Seas. There's plenty of reasons why you need to go do this, and I would urge you to go do it. But if you haven't done it yet, or if you haven't done it yet and you haven't been spoiled on it, don't let me be the reason why you get spoiled and then have you be upset about this, because there's now enough warning for you to know that this is where I'm going to be going into spoiler territory, probably in referencing for the rest of the episode. Okay. So with that being said, the preamble is done. You should have been able to have turned off the podcast by now. And I apologize if this is coming in a lot shorter of an episode as a result of that, but I have to talk about this at some point because it is integral to the lore of the actual game and ironic given the cadence that Rare is trying to actually do. So with all that being said, let's dive into it. Lottie's request. Lottie, one of the smugglers, has you go and actually become the super smuggler. And the only way to do this is to complete all of the smuggling commendations. Once you complete all of the smuggling commendations, you'll have access to certain things in the shop, including an earned title called the Super Smuggler. Now, these smuggler clothes are honestly very good, very well done. They're very piratey, and I like them. I think that they fit the aesthetic of what a typical pirate would look like. Once you do that, you can also go and buy certain smuggler trinkets from the shipwright. You then have to go and listen to Lottie. She will tell you to go to Wanderer's Refuge, find a cave, and find a way to get access if you have the right knowledge, if you've paid attention, and you know that you look like a true smuggler. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to do that. Rare Thief has a fantastic video. I would urge you to go watch Rare Thief, because not only does Rare Thief's video show you how to do it, it also shows you what the results are. So with that being said, you are going into Wanda the Warsmith, or just the Warsmith at this point, former lover of Flameheart, queen of the Dark Brethren, into her old abode where her and Flameheart Jr. shacked up to try and restore power to Flameheart. She wanted to be with Flameheart Sr. He wanted to be worthy of his father's love or admiration. And together they worked out a plan to dig up the Reaper's hideout and find Captain Flameheart's body to then bring him back to the Sea of Thieves. They succeeded as a result of a lot of help from pirates who just wanted gold or doubloons. Now, a lot of time has passed since then. The Dark Brethren court have broken away from Flameheart and decided to create their own faction, one that is dedicated to being true pirates that are not beholden to one faction, whether it be the Reaper's Bones or one other faction that is the Pirate Legends, and true to Duke's past as a bilge rat group of people, much like Lorena, who do not abide by being anyone but a true pirate. The irony there, right? A group of people who don't want to be part of anything are a group in themselves. It's like anarchists. They anarchists working together as a form of government or a form of organization to try and topple other organizations. It's ironic. Ironic is, I think, the best word to describe it here. But at its core, it's insane to me that Duke is now coming from the Dark Brethren. He is the person who is making contact with the smugglers. And I don't know if this is anything that's been talked about. I have not gotten a chance to really go consuming other Sea of Thieves creators' content to see if there's a connection here. So if I'm the first one to make the callback, woo. But it's crazy to me that back in 2019, Duke was the first person to get in contact with the smugglers. He set up the black market. And then years later, he comes back from the Dark Brethren court. He is still tied to the Dark Brethren court, by the way. That is his true goal, is to bring freedom to all pirates, regardless of what factions are out there, beholden to no king and no legend, as he says. And he's referencing Ramsay and Flameheart, clearly indicating that people that are aligning themselves with either faction are not true pirates. Piracy is about freedom and having that true freedom to be free to do whatever you want. And that's what he wants to restore to Sea of Thieves. And his ties to the smugglers are coming back from 6 years ago. The interesting thing about this, the thing that I think is wild here, is going back to the fact that this all started with the Smuggler's Run, or the Smuggler's Fortune update back in 2019 in September, when they came out with the rag and bone crates. And John McMurtry did a fantastic voice or video as the voice of Sea of Thieves, telling people that it was because of our ability to bring the Reaper Bones chests to Duke that they were able to open up the black market. And while some of the Reaper chests had really cool stuff in them, like cosmetics and whatnot that we didn't have before, that he now gets to sell through the black market back in 2019, there were ones that were filled with bones. And this is when a lot of the stuff started to happen over on Reaper's Hideout, before it was Reaper's Hideout and it was just an unmarked island where the killer whale, Merrick's old ship, was shipwrecked, and he was stuck for quite a while as well too. And it's amazing to me that a lot of the bones that were in these Reaper chests, that looking forward were Order of Bone and Blade skeletons. Like, we now have the ability to create Reaper chests from the bones of Bone and Blade, or Order of Bone and Blade skeletons. Flameheart's crews, his loyalists, were able to create those. We were giving Reaper chests to over to Duke to be able to like get cool stuff, to get doubloons, basically, right? He takes the bones, he stuffs them in a rag and bone crate, and then buries them on Shipwreck Bay. We dig them up and hand them out to the different sea posts to do God knows what. Now we look forward, we skip forward in time, going from 2019 to 2025. Here we are with the Reapers faction having us go around and dig up the bone and blade skeletons out of the sand and having them help us erect the pillars to be able to unearth the Dark Ancient skeletons from their sarcophagi and the skeleton skulls, which are being taken to Flameheart, obviously for the secrets that they hold, to get a better understanding of what's going to happen in season 18 when it pertains to the actual tribute peak, probably. But the Devil's Roar, for all intents and purposes, I'm imagining will have to go to Tribute Peak because that's where most of the ancients were. That was their place of worship, and I imagine that the dark ancients are probably housed around there as well too, that we just don't know about. But it is absolutely wild that the bone and blade skeletons were effectively inside the rag and bone crates that we were hauling around 6 years ago, and Rare did not take advantage of that history with the Reapers voyages. They told us to go build Reaper chests. They told us to go dig up bone and blade skeletons. And at no point did they think, we have rag and bone crates. Aren't those the bone and blade skeletons that were found in the Reaper chests? They were. Well, son of a... we should have been using those for the voyages, because then we would have been able to put more rag and bone crates into the world, and people that have these 6-year-old commendations might actually have had an opportunity to get some of them complete and actually have that tie-in to be able to reuse. I know a lot of people don't like it when Rare reuses stuff, but everyone seems really happy that the gifts are back in the forts to be able to get those commendations done. So I don't see why we can't dig up the old rag and bone crates and start using those. But why the didn't Rare decide to utilize the rag and bone crates for the Reaper voyages that were in 16 when we started digging up the literal bone and blade skeletons from the Reaper chests that were already out? Like, we already had it. It was there. Why wasn't this used? Why were these just cast to the side? They weren't like the rag and bone crates, and like they're just out in the world once in a while, and nobody sits there and points to that and be like, well, it's worth a little bit of doubloon, but we don't really know what's inside of it. That's one skeleton. Guys, if you want to use these, if you find a rag and bone crate, this is to Rare, by the way. Attention, Rare. Your emo. Please, take this to the team and think about this for a hot minute. If you want to use rag and bone crates, if you guys want people who haven't been able to get these complete or even know that they exist, grab these rag and bone crate. I'm starting to slur my speech because I'm trying to talk so fast. Grab these rag and bone crates and turn these into single skeleton helpers. Have us be able to open these up, put them around the world so they're more prolific. So you had a reason, like, you didn't have to bury these things. You didn't have to bury these things in the sand to have us dig them up. You could have had them be rag and bone crates on the beach and actually have us dig up the rag and bone crate and decide if we wanted to turn it in for the commendation and the doubloons, or if we wanted to crack it open and free the order of bone and blade skeleton that's in there. Why wasn't this an idea? Why wasn't this utilized? This is, I have another one of these, by the way. I love that they've done stuff with the bony nerds on islands. I love the nerds on islands. They're one of my favorite part of the games because I can grab them. They can run around and help me. They can carry stuff that's two-handed and disappear into the ground and teleport up next to me right when I'm back to my ship after I've grappled across half an island in 3 seconds. It's fantastic. But the fact that these weren't created from the rag and bone crates that already had the bones of these idiots in them from the literal Reaper chests that we gave to Duke back in 2019 that he didn't know what to do with, so we just put them into crates, is insane. It's actually insane. It is so mental to me that this was not called back to. What a fantastic way to say, hey, remember that thing that you guys did back in 2019 with those rag and bone crates? Well, it came full circle. The Order of Bone and Blade boys are in there, and you get a personal one if you carry a chest or a rag and bone crate that you find. Crack that bad boy open, whisper a little sweet nothing into his skull, and poof, you have yourself a personal skeleton to help out with. And if you need that commendation, boy howdy, good luck for you. Good news for you, because you can actually not open that up and go turn it in and get that credit. And we're going to put these things everywhere so that you don't have to worry. They can be doubloons to help reinforce the doubloon economy as we look forward to creating stronger dumps for doubloons in the form of repurchasable content like captaincy supplies. So if you don't want to eat through your gold, you can eat through the doubloons first. So if you're trying to save up for that Dark Brethren set, if you're trying to save up for that next ship and you're brand new to the game and you've been getting all these doubloons, but gosh darn it, there's just nothing that you really want because maybe that lucky hand set just isn't to your taste, but you still want to spend those doubloons on something else, and everything else is locked behind commendations that you have yet to get to. Wouldn't it be cool if you could still save your gold and use it on captaincy, but just for doubloons, and had that option? Boy, that would be super cool, wouldn't it? That'd be really, really cool. I think that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? So going back to the idea here, the core idea of why I got on this rabbit hole on YouTube, when I started to dig into all the videos, I went back and I've probably watched about a good 15 of these things just to try and find out not only dates, thank you to the wiki for that help as well too, but what the content was. And coming back full circle, looking outside of the lore, it is proof time and time again that Rare will do monthly content for a while, but that cadency does not suit their developmental style. I don't know how they develop. I don't know what they do. I don't know what their pipelines look like. I know that they have multiple teams that they've reinforced and built and destroyed, teams outside of the company or outside the studio that help them with other things. I don't know what their pipeline looks like, but it has been evident over the multiple years that I have been covering this game that monthly content is just not their forte. And it shows because they did monthly content from February to April of 2019. They released anniversary update and then they kicked it back up in July. And that lasted till October when they decided to do their October 16th update, which was the Fort of the Damned. And the mercenary voyages there were still good. They went from October 16th through to November 20th. And what happened in November 20th was they wanted to go back and do Tall Tales. So the mercenary voyages were still kind of present. They were still kind of there. But not even a year later, they killed the idea of doing monthly content for all intents and purposes and went back to Tall Tales. They did Seabound Soul, and then eventually they went and did the oh gosh, what was it? See, now I'm blanking out on it. Now I'm trying to remember what it was, and I can't actually remember what the Tall Tale was called. Ashen Treasures was what they did. And then they did Legends of the Sea, and then Cruise of Rage, and then Ashen Winds. And that was about it. But it's wild to me. It's absolutely wild that Rare continues to try and push monthly content. Now, you may be sitting here telling me or thinking in your head, like, why are you talking about monthly content? They do seasons. Right. They did seasons. Now they're doing seasons with each month of the season being its own monthly content. And the thing that is wild to me is that back in July of 2025, July 25th, 2025, Rare released the official podcast about season 16, where they talked about custom seas, they talked about smugglers, and they talked about SOT Fest. And one of the comments in there, and I'm not going to try throwing people under the bus for this, because I think that it's a studio issue. I don't think it's a personal issue. One of the things that they talked about was that they were looking forward to how the staggered release of content for seasons was going to be better. But one of the things that was admitted to are that some of the producers over at Rare are susceptible to feature creep. And some of you may not be familiar with feature creep, but feature creep is when you have so many cool ideas and you want to do all of them because it would be a great time to do it in this update. And you're thinking, we could do this. I think we could do this. So how did companies do this in the past? Well, they crunched. They worked longer than they should have to work on it. They did not have good time management. And as a result, multiple features that they wanted to get in got pushed into an update, and they didn't have enough time to quality check all of it. So what happens? Bugs, errors, hacks, exploits, things like that come to the game. Or you delay and you delay and you delay. Multiple times throughout the year, Rare has delayed content because it has, quote unquote, not met their expectations. And I have to be frank, if things are not meeting the quality that you expect, then you're trying to do too much, or you're not providing the content to a broad enough audience in the insiders at an early enough time to account for their feedback. I am not a developer. I am someone who follows developing on a very long period of time. But I have to say that if you don't have managers that are willing to say no to designers, you're going to run into feature creep. And it's going to turn into a situation where you try to balance what you want in the game versus what is actually feasible from a time management perspective. And you also have to build in test time. Now, they already do test time. They already have QA developers and they already have insiders. But if you're getting content and feedback to the insiders too late, and that feedback is also too late, then you don't have enough time built in. And if the reason for it is because the features that you're looking to test are coming in later because they were introduced later than when it was initially prescribed for the season, and you had a really good idea, and I appreciate that you had a really good idea, but if it's not gonna, if you can't make the timeline, then it needs to get cut and put later on into the season, or put later into another season. And it doesn't necessarily have to be themed. The idea of the theme seasons is what I think is marketable, but damaging overall, because you're trying to shoehorn in things that will prescribe to the theme of a season because it would be the best time to do it, as opposed to when it should actually fit within the timeline of doing stuff. And this is something that has been going on for a while. I'm not ragging on Rare because this is the first offense. I'm ragging on Rare because I've been witnessing this kind of development cycle for over 6 years. And it's frustrating as a consumer to be told the thing that you were expecting is not coming in when you expect it. Now, granted, a lot of people will sit here and say, with good reason, how can you be upset about free content? Well, from a consumer's perspective, I'm not, because it is free. It is something that I don't have to worry about. But when you have to come out and admit that what you're doing is not working over years, then there is just a fundamental understanding at Rare that it is easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. And at this point, it's one of these things where I have to sit here and think, producers need to start saying no. Producers need to start telling people, you can't put this in. There's not enough time. We'll get it later. And unless it is something, because I mean, take a look at the community. Look at the community. A lot of us are willing to wait for stuff. A lot of us are telling you like, it's fine. It's okay. Everyone else is like, this is wild that this still happens in 2025. The game came out 2020 or 2018, and you guys are still having trouble with monthly cadence. Maybe monthly cadence is not for you. Maybe monthly cadence is something for teams that are allowed to have bigger studios to handle that kind of content load. Other studios work with much larger dev bases and can handle monthly content. That just doesn't feel like Rare's bag. Rare likes to get stuff done. They do stuff that's more unique than most other studios that are not indie studios. But it's one of these things I'm like, guys, if it says it's a season, keep to the season. Otherwise, don't call it a season. Just release the content when it comes. You can have seasonal content without necessarily tying everything to a seasonal theme. Yes, Wild Things was the best thing that happened to Sea of Thieves in the last 2 years, or at least the last year, for sure. Wild Things was a fantastic season. Everyone loved getting their handed to them by Ancient Megs. It was wild. The PvE was hard, and everyone took into consideration other ships that rolled up on them. You make PvE hard, and people will enjoy it. If you give people the ability to all meet up and fight each other over the same bit of loot, that'll last for a while. That'll be okay for a while. I don't really see anyone hooting and hollering over siren skulls anymore. Nobody's contesting world events that don't have a cough associated with it or chest of fortune associated with it, right? So sometimes I think that Rare wants to push people together for those moments of engagement, when I think that sometimes the thing that should be that is the thing that's the hardest thing to do. If the fortresses were really hard to do, people would probably come together. And I tell you what, if it's really hard to do, people might actually start talking in chat and saying like, hey, this is hard. Can you guys help us out? We'll talk about the loot afterwards, or we'll fight it out at the end of it. But it'd be really great if we could actually complete this fortress and not lose our ship, or not immediately just hate life because it's so hard. So if you could help us out, that'd be great. And I know Rare has tried this. I know that they've tried and it has not worked out, because I know that there are commendations out in the world that say, you have to do this with an alliance ship. You have to do this with another crew present. So I don't know if that is something that needs to be mandated, but I think the natural, organic nature of other players helping each other out, because everyone recognizes this is hard and we need help, that maybe, just maybe, that would be more entertaining than for however long one of these forts that is done up and redone works out. Again, not a developer, I'm a consumer, just speaking my part in my feedback, because not every question in the recent survey had to do with what I wanted to talk about as far as what I think the game is suffering from. And I think that while toxicity is a fantastic thing to dive into, because it's one of the most important issues when dealing with other players in the Sea of Thieves, and being able to accurately and easily report that is important, and everyone should take that survey. I think that Rare talking about them wanting to do monthly cadence in a history of not being able to do monthly cadence, when you have producers coming onto podcasts and saying they are comfortable with feature creep because they want the designers to have that ability to feel free to be able to do that, and then have that equally translate into delayed timelines when it comes to seasonal content, does not enthuse your player base. It does not enthuse or enthrall your consumers. It just doesn't. Nobody wants to hear that the stuff that they were looking forward to is delayed. Can you imagine being the child who is looking forward to Christmas, and the parents have to come out like 2 weeks before Christmas and say, Unfortunately, we didn't order what you wanted from Amazon, and it's a really busy time. There's been layoffs. There's been a lot of stuff that has gotten, slowed down because of weather. So Christmas is going to actually be in 2 weeks, at the beginning of January. And we know you're going back to school. Can you imagine like that? We've had movies where that has been the fear of parents. Y'all remember, what was it? Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He spent the whole movie trying to get the Turbo Man for his kid because he didn't manage his time well. And he didn't want to tell his kid, like, I'm sorry, I didn't do it. So what did he do? He went and he figured out how to be Turbo Man by accident. But anyway, Christmas is coming. I hope you guys are ready, by the way. So I love Rare for what they do. But it feels like the meme is not funny anymore. And I recognize that just may be my perspective. But when you recognize something as a meme and you have to call that out, that's not awesome. That's not a fun thing to have to do. And it's not a fun thing to hear. So I know that when you guys say you want to do better, that you actually mean that you want to do better. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you. The way to do better is to start saying no and start pushing some of these features out. If you guys are getting to that point where content is not getting finished early enough to get on insiders, to get that valuable feedback, now that there's no NDA and we can talk about it freely, then then it needs to get to insiders faster, fam. It needs to get to insiders faster. And that is just one of those facts. Like, if you want the feedback sooner, they got to get it sooner. I'm playing World of Warcraft. They have already got the alpha finishing up for midnight for their next expansion. Like, they've already done the alpha testing. They've already got the feedback for that. They're going to be going into beta. Beta test is going to be available for people over time. Anyone that pre-orders the expansion gets access to it. And the beta is going to run till the end of the year. And then they're going to have all the numbers and all the feedback that they need, that if they want to launch in February, they've got a good month of crunch that they could do. If they wanted to crunch, they probably won't, because they work on 2-week stints for World of Warcraft and they have a huge team to be able to implement these changes. So chances are they're probably going to be able to do this, but they don't even have a release date locked in place for midnight. They have said that they are going to be releasing by June. That is the window of time that they've allowed for themselves for this feedback. Can you imagine if Rare gave you content for season 20 now and you tested it and you said, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. And they're like, that's fine. Don't worry. We've got 2 seasons to iron this out and test again. So we're going to take this feedback. We're going to work on that. We'll come back in 2 weeks with a new build. You jump in, you tell us what you think. If it looks like it's good, you've had a chance to test it, fantastic. That just doesn't happen. They are making content almost to the point of release, like very, very quickly. And I don't know how that team works. I don't understand how their team works, because it always feels like content is butting up against the release date. And if that's the case, they got to start working faster. They got to start working more ahead, not necessarily faster, but they have to start cutting stuff to make that. And the thing that really sucks, the thing that sucks the most, is the fact that this is the problem with season 17, is that the content didn't feel compelling. It felt light and it felt like it was uninteresting because it did a half measure. It went halfway. We got smugglers. It wasn't its own reputation. And it was something that was too similar to Merchant Alliance loot, the crates. And while I think that this season is probably one of the more integral seasons that's tied to the game, as far as the lore aspect goes, because I think it reaffirms what is going on with season 16, with the Reaper's Bones and Flameheart looking to try and get more access to the dark ancients. It reaffirms that by saying that Duke is back with the Dark Brethren in league with the smugglers to try and create a group of pirates who are willing to reject both Flameheart and Pirate Lord Ramsay and their factions to be truly free, to free yourselves of all of that. Now, whether they become their own faction, I think would be amazingly ironic, but I would also see that being the case because they're probably going to want to tie commendations to it. And I don't know if Adventures of Sea or Sea Adventures or the new Bilge Rat commendations are going to be that. But I see why they wanted to break away from that, because they might want to actually create their own kind of Bilge Rat faction, which is a very much Lorina's thing, which again, completely underutilized in the sense of the lore. Just, it's absolutely wild to me that we have gone this long and Rare is still confident that they're going to be able to handle monthly content with Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 every season on time. They were doing good until they decided they wanted to get ambitious and start throwing themselves into this situation where they wanted to break the content up. Wild Things having slow release of content worked out fantastic. Everyone enjoyed it. It felt a little light in the first month because we just got that one Hunter's Call voyage in the Ancient Megs, but then we got more Hunter's Call voyages in the sense that we got the Megalodon ones, which the Megalodon ones are probably one of my favorite voyages that they've come up with, even though they're just a tangentially related Lost Shipment voyage. I love the music for it. I think the fight is fun. And the fact that the Megalodons count towards your Pirate Legend Nox for the Megs that you need to kill is great. It's a great way to introduce a way to actively work on Hunter's Call reputation, as well as getting items that you need for the different combinations there, while also adding to the number of murders that you've had for Megalodons for the Pirate Legend Athena's Fortune reputation. Like, it was a very smart way to go about it, right? But a lot of people enjoyed that, and a lot of people came back because of the Ancient Megs, and they are still to this day one of the scariest things in the sea. I think we need more of those. You fast forward a little bit to that, you go to season 16. Season 16 was fantastic. It was Reaper's Bones. It introduced voyages and had people marked on the map with a Reaper's flag that was realistically what was kind of utilized in a lot of the mercenary voyages back in the day, because Rare was driving engagement with other players. They were trying to force people to see where everyone was, and they were trying to force people to go and engage with other players, as opposed to just going around doing PvE stuff all the time. And having the Reaper's Bones get voyages was fantastic. I think it was a very smart way of going about it. I think it really tied into the lore. I do think that eventually this will turn into that Athena's Veil issue that Rare knew going into it, that they were going to have stuff that was locked in time while the rest of the world was going to move on and the timeline was going to progress and the story would progress, that you would have these Athena's voyages that are the Legend of the Veil, where you are literally going and getting the stones for the Veil mask to be able to go into the sea. Again, it's all stuff that's locked in time. It's weird. It's how strange kind of things work with games as a service. And, eventually the Reaper Bones ones will turn into that as well, too, when we pass the story beyond the Dark Ancients and we're going around unearthing Dark Agents and Ancients to try and get their skulls for something that doesn't matter anymore. But we just need them comms. We need them comms. But they could retcon it. Just like I think they could retcon the Rag and Bone crates. If you bring the Rag and Bone crates into the world and you replace the skeletons that are half buried on beaches, and you put a little prompt on that Rag and Bone crate that says you could turn this in here, you could crack this boy open and get yourself a nerd, I think that they would have themselves, it would be a lot easier for them to justify having the Rag and Bone crates in this sense. And I really want them to do this because I think it would be a great lore nod, or a great nod to the lore, to be able to say like, oh yeah, you guys remember these things that we came out with 6 years ago? Well, they're back, they're relevant, and they're a great way for you to have one helper on your ship, as opposed to having a whole Reaper chest. Even if it was just one, just grab multiple Rag and Bone crates and you can have them on your ship. Only one skeleton can be active, otherwise you'd have to get a Reaper chest. And then just have that be have that be a way of going about it too. Like there's ways to balance it as well. It's not even a thing that you have to worry about too much. Like you could balance it fairly easily. Again, I'm not a developer, so don't make a mistake that I know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm just talking as a consumer, but it seems feasible. So what else? What else was going on with this? The developer update talked about how season 18 is delayed. I've been yelling about this for the last hour. It feels like hopefully it won't be a full hour of me ranting about this, but you guys want to know what's going on with the timeline. So here's what the timeline is going to look like. November update is going to come out. That's going to be the last or the third week of November typically. So that'll be normal. That'll come out like it normally does. What is going to be coming in the November update? Reaper fortresses are going to retain their presence on the seas, which is a weird way to word this because it suggests that the Reaper fortresses are going away at some point, which I was under the impression that these things were sticking around and they were the new version of the skeleton forts. And if you wanted a regular skeleton fort, you would either have to wait a weird amount of time for one to naturally appear, or you just use the dive system to dive to one for a specific emissary faction. That was my impression, is that these would stay in the game. Why else would you change up the forts to look the way they do, only to take them out later on in the game? That's not Rare's bag. They like to keep things in the game forever. Mega stashes will remain active. So if you want the 3 coughs in there, that is that you're going to be able to have those. And the chest of fortune is still going to stay within the Reaper fortresses until the next season when it changes again. For game health, they've talked about the continued efforts that they've made with the weapon switch change, and that should go live for the November update as well too, where the switch time between weapons, not guns, weapons, is going to be lowered to the base level of the 1.2, I think, seconds that it was, as opposed to the 1.5 or 1.7 that it currently is. PvPers know that more than I do. I don't really count the milliseconds on that one. But they have said that the weapon switching for guns is going to come in, the weapons in general, but mostly because people are double gunning. They've talked about how that weapon switch is going to come in, and that's what they are going to really benefit from. That is the folks that want to be able to fire faster. The thing that has not been addressed in this is the time to kill. This is the thing that I think is one of the biggest issues with Sea of Thieves, is that 2 shots from two shots from a specific weapon can kill someone instantly. And if you put a 1 second delay on those weapon switches and someone hits their shot, you could feasibly die if you do not eat prior to that second shot happening. In some cases, it used to be that you'd have a little bit more time. You have less time to eat now. So either eating stuff has to get done faster, and the health regen needs to be there faster, or you adjust the pool of health for players. And I can already hear people yelling at me that it's too hard to kill with the type of weapons that are going on in Sea of Thieves. Time to kill is not the issue with pirates. We'll see. But I'll offer a solution, as I try to every time I come up against one of these things where I say, this is going to be bad. It needs to change. Here's what I think can change. Right now, if you go play most other games that are first-person shooters, you have a way to mitigate damage. Now, with Call of Duty, you go play Warzone, you have armor plates. You can throw in an armor plate and it'll chink away at the armor plate when you get hit, as opposed to eating away at your actual health. If you didn't have armor plates, you just have your base amount of health, 100 points. You go play Fortnite. Fortnite has a 50 damage shield on top of another shield before you actually get to your health. That 50 shield will actually replenish over time once you're out of combat, but your normal shield will not replenish. You have to replenish that with the slurps. But they have a way to mitigate your player pool or your health pool with shields, or mitigate damage by increasing your health pool, right? Battlefield has armor plates. Halo let's stay within the realm of Microsoft games, right? Halo has shields. You have overshields, you have regular shields, and then you have health. If your shields get eaten, you still have your health. You do not die. Now, if they hit you, they knock out your shields, and then you take damage, you will still die. And the time to kill in Halo is a lot slower than it is in Call of Duty or Battlefield or Fortnite. They're all comparable. And the same thing happens over in Apex Legends. You want to look at Apex Legends. Apex Legends has shields. They have shield recharges. Logan, what's the point? Get to the point. We understand there's shields. Congratulations. You made a point. Your TED Talk was fantastic. Sea of Thieves has this. But Sea of Thieves is not implementing this in the way that they should. It's a fantastic idea the way they have it implemented, but it could be better. If you want to give players the ability to swap guns fast enough to kill someone before they have an opportunity to truly eat food, then I think we need to start utilizing that overhealth with the meat ring. And I'm calling it a meat ring because that's the thing that my friends say. Because the meat ring is the only way that you can get that actual little circle of health that will regenerate your health if you take damage and then get out of combat. You can only get that through cooked meat. That is the only way. So it's a little meat ring. You guys following? All right. So if you have a full ring of overhealth from eating cooked meat, if you take damage, it will eat at that meat ring. It will take out that chunk. If you get hit with a pistol shot, congratulations, half that meat ring is gone. You get hit with another pistol shot, all of your meat ring is gone. If you stay out of damage long enough and you have taken damage at some point and you eat something, then that meat ring will then go back and start to regenerate your health. So say you get hit with a sniper shot. You go downstairs and they have gotten a fire on your ship. You take fire damage. You eat a piece of chicken and you get a small portion of your health back and you get some overshield. The fire burns and takes some of your health away, leaving you with 75%. There's still a remainder of that meat ring that you have from eating the piece of chicken, and eventually that will start to refill your bar. But if you get shot from a sniper rifle at 75%, or we'll call it 70%, right? We'll be fair here. 70%, that sniper shot should kill you, right? But because you have that piece of meat ring on your player health bar, it will then take you down to 20% instead of killing you, which gives you another opportunity to find a way to get away. I know this messes with the time to kill, and that's the point. I think if you're going to have a meat ring, if you're going to invest effort into cooking meat and eating it and utilizing the captaincy supplies or farming it yourself, then you should be rewarded. It should be more than just a passive out of combat health regeneration. It should act as a armor plate to your health pool. You put in the effort, you bought the stuff, you cooked it, and then you had the presence of mind to eat it when going into combat. It should be there acting as a way to mitigate damage actively as opposed to just passively, just like every other first-person shooter on the market. I can't think of many out there that probably don't do this. I'm sure there are, but I'm saying that the vast majority of people that play first-person shooters probably deal with some sort of shield mechanic, whether it's armor plates or slurps or literal battery recharges or Master Chief's ammo or armor. It is something that we are aware of. It's a concept that's widely used in a way to help try and mitigate damage so that players have an opportunity to feel like it's a fair fight because they aren't getting double sniped super quickly by someone who can swap their weapons quick. You don't have to mess with the health pool that much, but you can make it feel more interesting if players are mitigating damage with the cooked meat. So that was the point that I wanted to make up or to make into this episode as well too, is we talked about the fact that Game Health is coming up and that they are going to bring in that weapon switch. Now, this may be something that Rare takes to the table. It may be something they never hear about. But if you like this idea, I think it would be fantastic if it got talked about more and actually shared to the point where most of the community could look at it and have a good, healthy discussion on whether or not this would be a pro or a con to the game after we know more about how this whole weapon switching thing happens. Because I guarantee you, when people start losing to double gun, we're going to have this conversation again. Whether people want to have this conversation or not, I guarantee you, people are going to start getting frustrated by good shooters. And they're going to start looking for ways to say, we need to nerf it. We need to change how much health damage each weapon does. We need to balance weapon damage. I don't think we need to balance weapon damage. I think we got enough weapons out in the world and the balance is there. But if people are dying too fast, then maybe we need to address the actual health pool. The time to kill is easier to balance in my mind at this point with the number of weapons that we have than trying to balance the weapons themselves. And I think the easiest way to do this is to make Overhealth from cooked meat an active mitigator as opposed to a passive regen. Well, okay, let me rephrase this. Make it as an active mitigator during combat and have it be a passive regen out of combat. Give it two sides. It's already in the system. It shouldn't be that hard. I don't see why you can't, you wouldn't be able to have that workout. I think it would take some time, some testing, some programming, but it's definitely feasible. It's definitely feasible. All right, so got that out of the way. Other things that are coming with the November update. They're looking to improve the load times from coming from the ferry as well as mermaids. They think they figured out the root cause of that, so they're going to be improving it. I know they had mentioned, I think last update, that they had been able to tie it to hardware. Whether that's just SSDs or not, it's hard to know like what that is, but they feel like they have a good handle on that. So hopefully you won't run into the infinite black screen anymore, and you'll be able to actually like have that going. You'll be able to arrive faster. They talked about better hit registration when people are swimming, and I didn't know that this was an issue that was so much of a concern that people were talking about this on a regular basis. I care more about the fact that my throwing knives don't seem to do anything to PvE like 70% of the time. Like I throw a dagger at a skeleton running at me and it just does not register. Same thing with ghosts. And I can actually sit there and watch the displacement of the throwing knife hit a phantom enough to make a hole in the phantom and then not have it actually register. And I know it because not only do they not die, first off, they don't die. But secondly, I didn't get the server hit registration acknowledgement because I've got my hit markers to be server authenticated, right? So that's where I was like, okay, we figured out the hit reg for people swimming. Can they worry about throwing knives at some point? That'd be fun. On the security front, Drew did talk about how the teleporting and firing speed cheats are now being detected and banned at a system level, and they're actually working on system level hardening to be implemented to be able to prevent this from future cheats, as well as some other stuff. And then again about the survey that everyone should have gotten by now, dealing with toxicity, and as it's a pretty big part of like the community, like the fact that people are toxic is just terrible. I've been watching clips from Arc Raiders, and it's wild what people are saying to them. The stuff I've heard in our Arc Raiders, I'm just like, bro, you gotta go out and learn how. You gotta figure out what the word empathy means, because this is not how you should be treating other people. So the surveys out there, please make sure you take some time to go do that, so that you can actually, like go and help with the feedback so they can address this in a better means. And that's at the moment, that's what we know what's going on with November's update. So again, expect that to mostly be quality of life improvements, which seems to be the thing that November is always good for when it comes to Sea of Thieves, is releasing the quality of life fixes. I think there's outside of Shrouded Spoils, there's obviously been other times where they've done this. But it's just funny that for some reason November is the quality of life update for me when I think about Sea of Thieves. And that kind of leads us into December. So third week of December is typically when we get when we'll get the December update. This will be the kickoff for the Devil's Roar for season 18. No idea if they're going to be doing the holiday stuff this year. I imagine they'll probably put the pre-programmed holiday music and the garland and mistletoe up in the tavern. It would be hilarious if Duke happened to appear in the tavern with his hat, like days of old. And I don't think that's going to happen, but boy, that'd be funny. I do not expect us to get another orb stream, just like we didn't have one last year. I think they've confirmed that they were not doing another Grog Monet for the upcoming New Year's. I think that was in one of the videos. And unfortunately I don't have the opportunity to go back to fact check that, because I'd have to find out what video it was, but I'm pretty sure in the last one or two videos that they said that they weren't going to be doing Grog Monet. It might have even been the live stream that they did recently, but I can't. Gosh, I should have written it down and I didn't. So that's on me. I'm sorry there, fam. But yeah, they are going to be releasing the start of season 18 in December's update. The second act will come in January's update, which will probably be the third week. And then the third act will start in February, which will probably end around the time of the, is it the 7th anniversary? 2025, 8th anniversary of Sea of Thieves. So so 2018, 18 and 19, 19 and 20, 20, 21, 22, 22, 23, 2024, 2025, 2026. Yeah, 8th year anniversary. The beginning of the 8th year for Sea of Thieves is when season 18 will end, which for all intents and purposes, if they get the content out to insiders early enough and they manage to keep the feature creep down and they can code it well enough, it'd be pretty cool if the anniversary of Sea of Thieves coincided with the launch of season 19. Just tossing that out there. Be a great time to start working on the season, because then March to April, April to May, May to June would take you to, lo and behold, the time when Sea of Thieves generally has the best content. Let's be real. June is generally when they have the best content in the history of Sea of Thieves. So what better way to throw off season 20 with a bang by having that start shortly after the Xbox showcase, which happens annually at the beginning of June. If the third Thursday of June is when season 20 kicks off, and they have a really fantastic trailer because they've been testing this stuff for the last 3 months and insiders, and while everyone knows mostly what's going on, boy, it'd be really cool if they introduced a trailer at the showcase that really said, we are bringing Duke back. The Dark Brethren are real, and the Dark Ancients are in control of the Sea of the Damned. The Ancients are running for their ghostly lives, and Flameheart or Ramsey will be finished. Wouldn't that be a heck of a story to tell? And all hail Flameheart Jr., or all hail DeMarco from the dead. Maybe Bell could take over the Pirate Legends. I don't know, but it would be pretty. Now I have no clue what's going on. I'm just making stuff up at this point, but it would be kind of cool. Just saying. I don't know how you get rid of a phantom, but I've thrown enough knives to figure out somehow. So I think I've gone on long enough. I said in the Discord that this was going to be a bit of a spicy episode. I feel like I've been surprisingly tempered I feel like when I first heard that the season 18 was going to be delayed on Friday, I was very spicy, and I feel like I've come down. I feel like if I was on the scale of hotness for like a chili sauce or something, hot sauce, I've definitely gone from like da bomb down to like house special as far as like levels. And if you don't know Hot Ones, that is a fantastic show on YouTube. Please go watch celebrities die to extreme heat poisoning from hot wings that they did not anticipate being that bad. But I will say that them delaying it is probably for the best, but not confidence earning as a studio from a consumer perspective. You cannot start a new way of delivering content in seasons and then immediately fail on the cadency of that with the next season. It doesn't look good. It does not look good. But that's my opinion. I know it's not the most upbeat, positive one. Like, I'm glad that they're taking their time. I think they'll really nail it out of the run. And yeah, there's going to be some hiccups as they start this new thing. We've been here before. We've seen them do seasonal content. We've seen them do delays. We've seen them try and even do monthly content. It is just not their forte. They're not strong at doing this. And it concerns me that you have producers who are okay with feature creep or willing to be susceptible to designers talking about feature creep when you need to be like, nah, sorry, we got our feature set locked in. We need to get it developed. We need to get it implemented. We need to get it tested internally. Then we need to push it to insiders. And then we have to allow for feedback to ensure that the wide breadth of player base that are testing these on all of the hardware sets that we can't do internally are being able to be taken into account so that we can really shore up some of the big issues that we may have missed in development. And then maybe like test it against some old stuff to make sure people aren't breaking it in ways that we didn't anticipate. But I don't develop. I just consume. But it's really hard to consume when the content gets delayed. So I hope for the best. I'm planning for the worst. As always, I tell folks, be very careful when the first update day comes out, because you never know how much it's going to be broken. And I think Shoe Daddy 13 typically has like a timer based on when the first tweet goes out that's like, hey, the servers are live, to the we are aware of X and we are working on fixing it tweet. Like I think that is becoming a meme in and of itself. So Pirates, that is going to do it for this episode. Again, apologies that this is a lot spicier, but when I get bad news, it is hard to take that with a spoonful of sugar. If you want, I have sugar here. I have a lot of sugar. Halloween sales after Halloween for candy. It's fantastic. I am going to have issues. I'm probably going to have to figure out like how to mitigate how much sugar I'm taking in, because it's just there's a lot of candy in this place right now, and I'm alone and unsupervised, and that's not always a great thing for me. That's not always a good thing for me. Sometimes I need that supervision. Sometimes I need that slap on the wrist to tell me no. I need to not eat that Butterfinger right now. Maybe later. Maybe when I've completed something, I can reward myself, but not after the eighth one. Not after the eighth one. All right, Pirates. That's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from on this. I hope you know that this is in no way me telling you to go and attack the developers. That is not what I want. And at no point do I think that the developers need to ever be attacked for what they're doing, because they're trying to do a job and they're trying to do it at the best of their ability. You just have to know where your strengths lie. And I think that is what my takeaway should be for this episode. And I trust them to figure it out eventually. I don't know if that eventually is in another 7 years, but we'll figure that out. You know what? We got time. Time is on my side so far. I don't know what'll happen tomorrow, but I do know that I have a lot of chocolate to eat. So I'm going to go do some of that. Definitely. before I go to bed, because we got an extra hour, which means I'm going to have to fill that time with something, right? So pirates, I hope you all have a fantastic week. I hope you all had a safe weekend. Please, please, please make sure that you take care of yourselves and your health as well too. There's only so much chocolate you should really consume, and also be aware. You never know when you're going to find a flame lord, like, you know, an ashen lord in one of your candy bars. So be careful opening those up. But that is going to do it for me. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always reach out to me. The easy way to do so is captlogun@gmail.com. That is the show's email address. It's also my email address. So if you guys want to email me something, you're more than welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can always go to the Discord server. There's links in the show notes that will take you to the Keelhauled podcast Discord. There's always the Patreon, where I'm also available there. I'm also on social media as well too, on Twitter, on Blue Sky. It's not, I know it's, I'm gonna keep calling it Twitter. That's just what I called it X the other day and it felt dirty. I'm over on Twitter. I'm over on Blue Sky. I'm over on other social medias, but more personal. That's more personal stuff. So I don't know about those ones, but I am over there. But yeah, that is going to do it for the podcast. I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Remember, I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.